Another shaky performance from Jake Oettinger has the Dallas Stars on the brink. We're going to talk a lot about the Vegas Golden Knights and what has been successful for their team, mostly in the cage, and the fantasy value of their goaltenders headed into next season. We got big time bets, and we got to talk about this Jamie Benn suspension. Thank you for joining us for Thursday's episode. Let's get right to it.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome back inside the lab that is the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. I'm joined, as always, by my esteemed co-host, Mr. Steele Roden. You can find his work all across YouTube under NHL Quick Hits and, of course, all across the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your boy, Big Flip Livingstone, and you've seen my work on such outlets as The Score, CBC Hockey Night in Canada, and a lot more. So make sure you're checking us both out for all of your fantasy hockey needs. And thank you for making us your first listen every single day. On today's episode, Thursday's episode, we got a little Western Conference Final Game 3 recap. Jamie Benn suspended for 2 games. That cross-check to the neck area, Steele.
Vicious.
Pretty nasty. We got to talk about that. I need to ask you a big question. It could be the nail in the coffin for the Dallas Stars. Just that time of the game, everything that happened right after. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to ask you that question. I got a lot of big questions for you today, Steele, and I hope you're ready for it because they all hold fantasy implications. Adin Hill shines once again for the Golden Knights. We got to talk about their goaltending landscape and who holds more fantasy value headed into next season? Is it Logan Thompson or is it Adin Hill? Speaking of goaltenders, are they maybe decreasing their value in the situation with Jake Oettinger? He needs to be a lot better. I'm going to ask Steele about that. We got Thursday, Game 4 tee-up and big-time bets as well. So thank you for joining us for a jam-packed episode. Steele, before we get to bets, before we get to everything else, Jamie Benn, vicious hit. You can see the frustration starting to set in here. But what a really, never a good time to do something this brash. But this is the question I'll pose to you in a second. But hit me with your take on that play.
It's a lapse of judgment from the captain and leader of the Dallas Stars. You're a minute into the game. You're down 1-0. There is no reason whatsoever for Jamie Benn to be even doing what he did to Mark Stone, cross-checks to the face. This is what Jamie Benn has done throughout his entire career. He has done this countless times throughout the NHL, 14 seasons he's been in the league. He loves to cross-check, whether it's to the face or to the ribs. It doesn't matter to him as long as he gets a shot in worthwhile. He has those moments where he just forgets everything. He forgets it's hockey, he forgets the rules, and he just does what pops in his mind. I'm not even kidding you. I honestly think that I can see the moment in his mind that everything went blank and there's just a big bubble cloud popping right in his brain with a blinking neon sign that says cross-check, cross-check, cross-check. And it just didn't make any sense whatsoever to do what he did. Cross-check right in the face. Gets a 5-minute major. He's gone for the game. Obviously has the hearing, suspended for 2 games of the Western Conference Finals. At that point, it's probably too late. They're probably going to lose in the next 2 games, it seems like. But what really pisses me off the most, personally, this is what pisses me off the most, is right after the game, he left. He didn't even address what happened. He didn't want to talk to the media.
BS,
you're the captain. You're the leader. You have to take accountability for your action.
Yes.
But what really sets me off and pisses me off is when someone tries to play it off like they were trying to do something else. Like he did end up talking to the media earlier yesterday, and he said he wished he didn't use his stick as a landing point. To me, that's just utter nonsense.
Yeah.
You know exactly what you're doing, Jamie. You know exactly what you're doing. Stone goes down. You weren't even falling. You personally forced yourself down to the ice so you could cross-check him in the face. I thought it should be 2 games. He gets 2 games. It's the right call. And this is why I was saying this all day yesterday. This is the reason why the Dallas Stars and Jamie Benn have not won a Stanley Cup with his entire career with the Dallas Stars. This is the reason, because he does nonsense stuff like this.
And unfortunately, he's pretty effective otherwise, Steele. Maybe some poor decision-making really kind of hindering his ability.
Yep.
And I think you really kind of pointed out something that we have to recognize here. He has the C on his chest.
Yep.
And there comes a factor of accountability there, not like every other player at this point in a postseason and a battle for a Stanley Cup. Every single player, every single night, whether you're playing 4 minutes or 24, has to be accountable for every single bit of what they're doing out there with their stick, with their body, with their shoulder, or otherwise. You saw Veleno in the World Championship stomp a guy.
That was just
and
nasty.
he gets 5, and you're just wondering, what are you thinking?
Yep.
You're a professional athlete out there, and not to mention the effect on yourself and what it'll do for your own career, especially Jamie Benn at this point. How many more kicks at the can is he really going to get? And I'll ask you this question in a sec. Maybe this was the nail in the coffin for the Dallas Stars this season, given how pivotal of a time in the game that came and what happened after. We'll get there in a sec. But I wanted to just say 62 points in 82 career games. Aside from his inability to make good decisions, he has been productive offensively for the most part, including this season, 11 points in 16 games. So I wanted to point that out. But given they're down 1-0, given they give up a goal immediately after on a power play because of his dumb, boneheaded, dangerous play, by the way, just a dangerous play, falling on a guy's neck with your stick, and a huge cop-out. I agree with you as well with his response. And then they score right again. They pop 3 quick goals. And yeah, the first goal wasn't directly his fault, but the other 2, I'm going to hang on him for turning that around. Jake Oettinger gets chased. And let me hit you with this. Do you think it's the nail in the coffin? Because also the way he's carried himself and the lack of being like the leader that this team clearly needs, the young Jake Oettinger is clearly not feeling confident. And then he's got boneheaded plays coming from the leadership of this team. It's just starting to stink real bad for the Dallas Stars. And then on the other side, you got Vegas looking confident as ever.
Look, I think it is the nail in the coffin for the Dallas Stars. Now, and I think I've said this to you many, many times. I think that the front office, the management of the Dallas Stars, they can't wait till Jamie Benn's contract is up. I think they'll most likely want to resign him. He's been there his entire career, but his contract is brutal. And yeah, he's had a bounce back season, but this just, at this point, it's completely forgotten. This one moment that he just had, the lapse of judgment, is what he's going to be remembered for this year. He cost his team.
It's such a pivotal time.
They were down 2-0 in this series. They were down 1-0 in the first minute. They weren't out of it. It's a must-win game, it seems like. And you got yourself kicked out of the game. So for me, it's the nail in the coffin. We are going to talk about Jake Oettinger as well. But honestly, at the same time, the Dallas Stars have just gotten worse and worse as the playoffs have gone on. They dominated the first round against the Minnesota Wild. I know they lost 2 games, but they dominated that series. There was no crooked numbers. I think the second game when they won 7-3, that was the only crooked game and they won. Then you go to the Seattle Kraken in the second round, and it's just the most lopsided, crooked numbers back and forth, going game 7 that I've seen from the Dallas Stars. And then they don't show up against the Vegas Golden Knights in the Western Conference Finals. So you're not getting the best out of Jake Oettinger. You got the worst out of your captain. And, Jason Robertson, he's scoring goals, but where's Roope Hintz right now? Where's Miro Heiskanen right now? It seems like they've lost a little bit of their confidence, especially after game 3.
And even Robertson, though, 4 goals. I think he has 2 goals.
He's 2 goals in this series,
2 goals in it. Yeah. So, okay, that's better for sure. But I think overall, after the season he had, and I understand 15 points in 16 games, it's just when you enter the postseason after scoring 109 points, I think is what he had, the expectations go up, right? And that's when he wants to get paid like one of the top players in the league. He wants the salary, he wants the term. Then I'm going to hang that expectation on him as well, Steele. And hey, you're in the Western Final, baby. So the magnifying glass is on you. And in my opinion, he needs to be better. I'm going to talk about that when we come to big time bets. Speaking of having to be better, we're going to talk about Jake Oettinger. We're going to talk about a lot of goaltending angles coming up around the break, including who holds more fantasy value in the crease, Adin Hill or Logan Thompson, and who holds that Vegas crease headed into next season. Headed into break here, we got to pay these bills, and we got to talk about our friends at Bird Dogs, because today's episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs. And if you're talking about fit, comfort, and versatility, both Steele and I now, we've got our swag packages from Bird Dogs. We've been rocking the shorts every single day, swapping in out the colors, the comfort, Steele, you can wear these things basically anywhere and still look
yeah.
sharp. I know you've already ordered an extra pair of gym shorts, so make sure you go out there and you check out Bird Dogs because they give you the freedom to wear one pair of shorts and pants from the golf course to a meeting, a date, or hanging out with friends. The stretchy fabric makes the legs look great, and they're comfier than any other short or pants that I own. And I look better and feel better because I'm wearing these Bird Dogs. And just like a number of successful and high-quality athletes, aside from Steele and I, there are a lot of celebrities out there rocking Bird Dogs. Bert Kreischer, Dave Portnoy, all the Pardon My Take hosts, they're rocking the Bird Dogs for the comfort and the fit. So make sure you head over to birddogs.com/LockedOnNHL. When you enter promo code LockedOnNHL, they'll throw in a free custom Bird Dogs Yeti-style tumbler with every single order. I think I might have to head out there, Steele, and cut myself a few more pairs of these Bird Dogs because summer's headed in, and these the comfort and the fit, it's with Bird Dogs, baby. So make sure you head to birddogs.com today and cop yourself some new swag.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find a Locked On podcast of your favorite team in all 4 major sports leagues and the NCAA. Your team every single day. And thank you so much for tuning into the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast with Flip and I, Steele Roden as well. Continuing the topic of the Western Conference Finals, Vegas Golden Knights and the Dallas Stars. It's a goalie battle right now, and so far Vegas is coming up on top. They've gone through the goalie carousel all season long. I know you want to talk about the goalies, Adin Hill and Logan Thompson for next year's fantasy draft.
It's just such an interesting storyline, and I know we've kind of touched on it here or there, so we don't need to go into it at too much length in terms of how impressive running out 5 goalies and at critical times of the year, especially headed into the season. Right off the jump, we were kind of questioning where does this team fall, and then Robin Lehner's injury happens, and both you and I were ready to write this team off. And, you know, even right up to the playoffs, I wasn't really fully buying them as a number 1 seed in that division. And here they are, 1 win from the Cup. And, hey, Florida Panthers, 1 win from the Cup while we're recording this. We'll see what happens. But realistically, Steele, we know how important the goaltending position is.
Yeah.
And I might sound like a broken record on that, but when it comes to fantasy and your ability to really pounce on a hot goalie or get the right one or miss out on the wrong one, it can really mean the difference between you making money or not in your fantasy leagues year in and year out. So that's why I really want to pay attention to this, because also throw out a little bit of love for your boy Adin Hill, a guy who has toiled for only 101 games in his NHL career, mostly for the Arizona Coyotes and San Jose Sharks in a backup or even third string role. And here he is being one of the main reasons to bring his team to the Cup final. But also his numbers this year. This is why I wanted to pay attention to this for a hot minute here. 16, 7-1, 2.45 goals against, and a .915 save percentage. And I want to talk about him over Logan Thompson in a second here because their numbers are eerily similar.
Yeah.
But very quickly, what are you seeing from Adin Hill? And I'm not talking about going out there and potentially drafting him.
Yeah.
Because that might be bold in a year-to-year league. It's bold because we don't know what's going to happen. He's not even under contract for next season. But you can't help but feel if he continues to do what he's doing and he brings Vegas even close to a Cup championship, which he's already done, he's going to be back in Vegas because they need a goaltender. And what do you do with him?
The guy's just oozing confidence right now. He looks as calm and in his groove as Sergei Bobrovsky does for the Florida Panthers. Yeah. He looks
27 years old as well, by the way.
27, yeah, he's right in his prime right now as a goaltender. Like you said, he's only played just over 100 games in the NHL. He hasn't had a lot of experience as a starter or even just playing in the league for that long. But yeah, no one really knows what's happening with Robin Lehner. He's still under contract for the next 2 years at $5 million. He hasn't played since February 2022. He's been through shoulder surgery. He's been through hip surgery. Yep. He's filed for bankruptcy now. It's been a very rough year for Robin Lehner and the Vegas goalie department. That's how the goalie carousel really started with Robin Lehner, all the injuries and off ice incidents that are going on. I think the Vegas Golden Knights easily run back next year with Logan Thompson and Adin Hill. Like you said, Thompson signed for the next 2 years at an incredible price, just over $760,000 right now. And then Adin Hill is a UFA at the end of the season or at the end of the year. So I think they'll easily be able to re-sign him for cheap, get him to like a 1.5 to 2.5 million for 2 years, whatever it is. In the meantime, while they figure out what's going on with Robin Lehner.
Agreed.
I don't think, even with all the confidence and great play with Adin Hill right now, I think your best bet is to continue next year with Logan Thompson. Adin Hill, like you said, 16-7-1. He's playing great right now, but he's been a backup his entire career. Again, he's only played 100 games, but he's been a backup. And that's what it really comes down to. Again, you and I had so many question marks with the goaltending, and the fact that they had to go through 5 of them this year and get to this point with Adin Hill is just absolutely remarkable. But yeah, I think for next year's fantasy draft, Adin Hill is one of those guys that, maybe you can draft him at 18th, 19th, even 20th. Adin Hill is one of those goalies that I would pick up off the waiver wire every other week, just like get an extra game in there for a goalie if you have the space. And he would do the job great. So he to me, he's still a backup goaltender, even though he's playing phenomenally right now. I do just want, this is a little bit of a side note though. This is about the Arizona Coyotes, kind of just a little bit of a side note and has nothing to do with the playoffs, but that is truly one thing the Arizona Coyotes know how to get right, is developing their goaltenders into reliable, trustworthy backups that can potentially turn in to starters for other team. Adin Hill.
You love Caravello. That's your boy.
I love the Coyote. Listen to this. Adin Hill, 4 seasons with the Coyotes. Antti Ranta, 4 seasons with Arizona as well. He's with the Carolina Hurricanes right now. Scott Wedgwood, 2 seasons with Arizona. He's with the Dallas Stars right now. You have 3 goalies that played for the Arizona Coyotes in the last 4 to 5 years, now in the Eastern and Western Conference Finals. And look at my boy right there, Karel Vejmelka. He's 2 seasons in with the Arizona Coyotes. His name has already been rumored for trading. He could be the next guy in the Stanley Cup, in the Stanley Cup Finals. Like Arizona just seems to develop good goalies. But yeah, back to the point, Adin Hill, I still think he's a goaltender you pick up off the waiver wire every so often.
Yeah, it's a very intriguing question because Adin Hill has more of a track record. And yes, it is as a backup, but maybe even more impressive because it was a backup on those teams and he's getting thrown against the Wolves for the chunk of his career. How about every single year in his career, aside from his rookie season where he entered and played 4 games, above a 900 save percentage and a 910 save percentage over his 6 seasons in the NHL. So I just think you got to pay attention here because Vegas is clearly going to be another good team and making some noise in that division next season. So when it comes to options in the crease, you got to keep your head on a swivel and you got to make sure that you have your finger on the pulse for every single situation. So knowing that also, most likely, even if it is tipping the hand to Logan Thompson, Adin Hill is still going to get a lot of looks in that crease to take some minutes next season. Especially if he brings this team home a cup. He might even get a shot at being the number 1 guy next season if they choose to re-sign him and throw a little bit of money at him. And what better negotiating chip to sit down at the table with next season as a UFA than a big old Stanley Cup, baby, right on the table. That might work nicely for Mr. Adin Hill. Steele, I want to talk about Jake Oettinger after the break. Let's tee up Game 4 and big-time bets after the break. Take us there, my friend, when you're ready.
Can't wait for big time bets and the continuation of this Western Conference Finals. I've got some spicy picks for you there, Flip. But yeah, of course, like always, we do have to pay these bills. This episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits just right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know the part will fit or you get your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Let's ride with eBay Motor. And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. We appreciate all the love and all the support our listeners show us Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning. And we hope that your teams out there, Western Conference, Eastern Conference Finals, you're enjoying the playoff hockey out there. We know Flip and I are as well. Jake Oettinger, probably not enjoying his time right now in the Western Conference Finals. Gets yanked in Game 3 after allowing 3 goals on, 5 or 6 shots. He had a 400 save percentage within the first 8 minutes of Game 3 against the Vegas Golden Knights. But yeah, he gets chased for the 4th time, I believe, in this postseason so far. I think it was 2 or 3 times against Seattle. But yeah, gets pulled against the Vegas Golden Knights in Game 3. And Jake Oettinger, Dallas Stars, find themselves down 3-0 to the Vegas Golden Knights.
Here's my thing with all of this chasing and pulling as well. And we've talked at length about the coaching and what we think about all the coaches left in they're all studs. They're all studs. And I'm not here to detract from, Pete DeBoer is also one of those guys who is just well-respected. Wait, it's DeBoer, right? Yeah, Dallas.
Yeah, Peter DeBoer.
And so anyway, I'm not here to chirp Pete DeBoer. And I understand that Jake Oettinger needed to be pulled in some of those situations. But this back and forth Yankee job situation is not good for a guy who's only 24 years old. This is his first real run, right, in the postseason, I believe, Steve. Let me check this.
Yeah, he played 7 games last year against the Flames.
He had the 7 games last year. So this is his first real run. I would have rather him actually at some point, and, now you can't because you got to go with Oettinger. I would have rather seen him ride again with Wedgwood, just to really send that message to Oettinger. If you're going to pull him and try and get the best out of him, pull him and sit him again and send that message. That's just my opinion. I'm not here to hash that out. I just wanted to throw that out there. So tell me what you think about that. And is this man decreasing his fantasy value for next season? I don't think so, but that's because I'm so closely tied to his value. But if he keeps getting chased, something that, by the way, at this time of season, you can't be getting chased and allowing the kinds of goals that he's been allowing. And his numbers were just so good during the regular season, and they just have not been during this postseason. Steele at times looking really, really bad. So, yeah, I want to hit you with, what do you think about that, my take on the DeBoer Yankee jobs, and is he decreasing his fantasy value?
Yeah, I think if you go back to the second round series with Seattle, I think at some point maybe you give a little bit of Scott Wedgwood some leeway, get him into the game and see what he can do. It's obviously a tough series going back and forth.
Hindsight's 2020 as well, so I'm
exactly. So I get where you're coming from, but when you've got Jake Oettinger over Scott Wedgwood, I think you obviously just go back to Jake Oettinger, who's proven to bounce back after a tough loss. It hasn't been that case so far in the Western Conference Finals. But look, you and I both, I think, can agree on this, that even with this tough stretch of hockey, he's still a top 5, top 7 goaltender in the league, fantasy-wise.
I was hoping you would say that. I agree.
Yeah, he's still a top 5,
the
top
Stars
7.
are still going to be a force to be reckoned with in that division as well.
And that's the thing, too. Playoff hockey is just completely different from the regular season. So it's a tough stretch of hockey for him right now. The better team's just winning. The Vegas Golden Knights are just the better team. That's what's happening.
That's it, man. Yeah, 100%.
That's exactly what's happening. And it is a tough stretch of hockey. I think he can obviously be better. The first goal in Game 3, he couldn't stop that. That was a cross-crease, absolute rifle from Jonathan Marchessault. But the second and third goal were just absolutely atrocious. Second goal, he was way out of his crease, pushed way too far over. He was almost at the right post. The puck went in the middle of the net, like just below the crossbar. Right. And then the third goal was a weak backhander that he actually caught a piece of. It still went in, though. So he gets chased around Game 3, or he gets chased out of Game 3. It's been a tough stretch. I was thinking about this the other day, or after he got yanked. I don't know when or how this happened, but this is exactly out of Space Jam. I don't know how or when, but Sergei Bobrovsky and Jake Oettinger somehow crossed paths and at some point accidentally transferred their talent to one another. Because what we are supposed to be getting out of Jake Oettinger is what we're getting out of Sergei Bobrovsky right now, and it's vice versa. So I thought that was
on the Monstars, though.
I know.
Yeah, I'm kidding.
But again, it's not just Jake Oettinger. It's also, again, the entire team has just gotten worse as the playoffs have gone on.
Yeah, and they've put him in some tough spots too. I'm not here to defend how he's played. But I am here to defend his fantasy value for next season because I agree. And I also, with Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn I know they had bounce back seasons, but their time is starting to wane in the NHL. And I think even with those contracts and the value that they've gotten out of them this year, especially after they could have been both written off potentially, I think you're going to start to see their minutes really wane as well. And, another year for Wyatt Johnson, another year for Miro Heiskanen, another year for Jake Oettinger. Those are Rupe Hintz, Robertson. Those are some of the most enticing young pillars for team, right? Like if we're putting together, let's say 4 or 5 of the best young, like to build a team with, I'm probably taking Oettinger. Heiskanen's up there for sure. Wyatt Johnson down the list, but he's intriguing. Jason Robertson for sure. Rupe Hintz probably for sure. So that's why I think the value for Oettinger. Has he struggled? Yes. Might these be a big learning point for him and boost his value next year in terms of the long run?
Yeah.
We'll wait and see for sure. I think he's still a stud steal. Speaking of studs, our picks have been hitting a little bit here, my friend. So why don't I throw it over to you for your Game 4 Thursday night bets?
Yeah, and if you don't mind, I'll just rattle off all 3 of
Might
them.
as well.
Just get them right out of the way. And I really like these picks, actually. First pick of the night, Stars in Vegas, under 6.5 at -188. If you want to bump it down to under 5.5, I believe it's at -110 or 105, around those odds right now.
I got it at 115 right now.
115, perfect. So yeah, if you want to bump it down to under 5.5, I'm there for it too. I'm playing a little bit more safe because I'm parlaying this together. So under 6.5 at -188. I'm also going Barbashev over half a point in this matchup as well at +126. He's got 7 points in his last 5 games. That to me actually might be a top 3 pickup at the trade deadline for the Vegas Golden Knights, or any pickup at the trade deadline. He has been spectacular so far this postseason. And to jump on top of that, my lock of the night, Jonathan Marchessault, anytime goal. The kid's just firing pucks in the back of the net. Ever since that hat trick game, I think it was hat trick in Game 5 against the Edmonton Oilers, Game 6 maybe it was. Yeah, maybe Game 6 against the Edmonton Oilers, the hat trick. He's just been firing in the light. The goal horn has just been popping off every single game, it seems like. So Stars Vegas under 6.5 -188.
Love it.
Barbashev over half a point +126. And Jonathan Marchessault is the lock of the night, anytime goal. I do not have the odds right now, but I'm assuming it's -100 or +100, one of those.
I think it +100 sounds good to me, Steele. Also, what sounds good to me is you and I are both thinking the same kind of direction in this game. And I think I also, we're in the middle of Game 4 for Florida, for this Florida series against the Hurricanes, and we don't know, but I think I took the Florida Panthers to sweep it on our bets, not our predictions, just our bets. And I think we see a sweep again.
Yeah.
First pick of the night, Vegas Golden Knights on the money line, +105. Headed into this postseason, Steele. One of my caveats, if we want to run the tape back, we knew all about the Vegas flu, right? We knew all about what this team does at home, but they were one of the best teams on the road this season. I believe they had the second most wins in the NHL away from home, and they are 6-1 on the road in their last 7 games overall. I think they get it done on the road, something that they've done all year. And at +105, I'm feeling that money because I am going to parlay these together as well. Same game parlay. Shout out to FanDuel. Second pick, and I know you're going to like this one. He's led the team. He's squashed some narratives. He's looking like he's ready to head to that first Stanley Cup of his career. Jack Eichel, 6 goals, 10 assists. Give me the Jack Eichel anytime assist. It's going to be a lower odd because he has 10 of them. But I'm feeling nice in this parlay. Vegas, Eichel, and give me the under as well. I like it at 5.5 as well, Steele. Dallas is rattled. Vegas is confident. I think they're going to throw their rate around. I'm going to say 3-2 final. Empty net, I hope, doesn't pooch me. So my lock of the night, under 5.5, -115. I'm going to parlay them together, but if I were to just hammer one, it would be the under once again, because I do think you'll see a response from Jake Oettinger and that defensive unit from the Dallas Stars.
We're on the same page here today for this matchup. Our player props are going hand in hand. Barbashev, Eichel, Marchessault, they are getting it done offensively right now for the Vegas Golden Knights. Looks like it's going to be a sweep. That's what Flip and I are leaning towards for Game 4.
Crazy.
crazy atmosphere in the Stanley Cup playoffs this year. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Again, make sure you're tuning in Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning Eastern time is when you can find our episodes. Make sure you hit the subscribe, hit the follow button. We appreciate all the support you show us every single day. And thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day. Good luck with all your bets out there, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.